So you just heard from Castle, the best bunny critic in the biz, clearly from the video. He liked the movie to begin with, but because he did a little head binky there, but then he became more interested in something else. And I'm Tyler. Now it's my turn to talk about The Catcher Was a Spy. Let's do this. So first things first, let's get the most undeniably positive thing out of the way. This has a great cast. It has Paul Rudd, who I always enjoy, Mark Strong, Jeff Daniels, Sienna Miller, Paul Giamatti, Guy Pearce, and Paul Rudd puts in really solid work as Moe Berg, the catcher in the title. And the thing is, I always enjoy Paul Rudd. He's not always in the most fantastic of movies. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't really list any that are fantastic. I mean, there's Ant-Man that I enjoyed, and there's probably some other really good ones scattered throughout. And I always say this when it comes to a Paul Rudd movie, and if I keep reviewing his movies, you're going to probably hear this every single time, but I find him so charming. He's one of my favorite actors to watch. And this, he has a little bit more to sink his teeth into, because he's not just comedic relief and whatnot here, so he can actually do something a little more serious. But with that said, he could have had a hell of a lot more to do. Now, I've never read the book. It actually has been kind of sitting in my house for years. But there's a good story here, and the movie kind of leaves Paul Rudd hanging a little bit, because they don't... I mean, it's probably a better book. I think I'm gonna actually read the book now, but it's probably a better book. Because here's the thing. Moe Berg is a really fascinating person, or was a really fascinating person. He had this mystery, this mystique around him that he kind of perpetrated himself, and he may not really be as deep or as mysterious as he portrayed, which is kind of one of the more interesting things about him anyway. But by the end of it, I was definitely intrigued by his life, and I wanted to know more, because I don't actually know that much about him. I wanted to know why he did the things he did, because he was very secretive about his personal life and his reasons for why he did some of the stuff that he did. But the movie itself doesn't really do a good job of this. It flirts with certain ideas, but it doesn't really stand up to the great movies of any of the genres that it is placed in, such as a war film, a spy film, or even like a character study. There was so much more that the movie could have touched on. Now, you can't touch on it all because it is a film. It doesn't have that level, like that length that it can play with. But I feel like the movie could have actually been a little longer in a sense. But I say in a sense because the movie's kind of a bore, so maybe the length wouldn't have helped with this creative team. So it's about an hour and a half long, and for the first hour or so of it, it's a passable spy flick, but it doesn't really do anything that exceptional. So it's a little dry, a little lifeless at times, but I did find that the last half hour or so it really hit its stride there. It became a much more interesting and tense movie. The things that Moe Berg had to deal with in that moment, it came to a good culmination that was it was a little emotional, and it was a little more exciting. It wasn't an action sequence by any means, but it was like more of an old-fashioned spy tale. It didn't need guns blazing, but it was still interesting, and I was more invested. Now, the problem was it took a little too long to get there, and this is where I disagree with the best bunny critic in the biz, because while he was interested at first, as evidenced by the video, and then lost interest so he could lick something else, I didn't want to lick something else in the last half hour. So I think that he really wasn't given enough credit to the best part. And yes, I'm throwing shade at my bunny, who I love so much. He has come up to tell me how wrong I am. But if you're asking me what I think about it, I'm giving it an eh. You know, just a simple eh. It's fine. You know, if it was a scale out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6 or so. Because while it was mostly entertaining, it did drag a little bit. And the good last half, like the final act, really couldn't make up for the rest of the movie that was only okay. But, you know, I would recommend it because it is an interesting tale. And like I said, it did make me intrigued in Moe Berg's life, so at least it did that. So what did you think of The Catcher Was a Spy? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Tyler, the best bunny critic in the biz is somewheres, and I'm out. See ya.